today. I have the intention to speak from a more casual, superficial level, not to go into a trance state, but to just, to speak more off the cuff, I guess, without trying to be deep and wise, because I think that in a way that's trying to make things more palatable, which is part of my wound. It's part of what I've done for much of my life because of conditioning and fear of judgment, condemnation, criticism, all that stuff. I need to be less afraid of being misinterpreted, I think. The truth is that I have a lot of criticism, and I have a lot of anger, and I have a lot of upset about things. I have strong emotions, and in the past I've bottled them up, and that has not been good. It is important to self-reflect and to question the thoughts that we have. We are not our thoughts, and not all of them are worth speaking aloud. So I do want to find a middle ground and a refinement in being natural, being authentic, being true to myself, which is somebody that is thoughtful and considerate. I want to be authentically good and not performatively good. And to me, being good means authentic. That means sometimes expressing uncomfortable feelings and truths. Especially in this day and age, that's more important than ever, where the threats of censorship, the threats of gaslighting and being politically incorrect are larger than ever. And so I think it is important that, it's important for me, it's important for me because of personal reasons as well as the world that I live in. It's very personal to me that we be standing up for our freedom of speech and opinion, to express ourselves, and have the wisdom for discernment and know where that is, where the appropriate places are. And sometimes the appropriate places is a journal, is our artwork, is the gym, is a shooting range. But I think we also should not avoid I'm not a big fan of politics, but maybe the public square or engagement with people that have differing opinions. And I think that's how Western civilization was founded, was on the value of debate and expressing unpopular opinions and not being afraid of mob mentality. I think perhaps we're outgrowing democracy, where we see that this is ruled by the mob and especially when it's weaponized by people conspiring and tactics where the voice of the people is subverted. But in my own life, I think the emphasis should start at home, and it does begin with self-censorship and having self-confidence and the ability to believe in ourselves, believe in our own inner voice. And there could be many voices inside. And as I've said before, the practice of meditation, mindfulness, inner listening, I think is very, very useful tool in refining what our voice is, so that we can weed out the things that have just kind of been injected into our minds unconsciously, and we can really sort and sift through all of those thoughts and streams of consciousness and discern what are the things that align with the core of our being, or who we identify as. And I think it's right that be challenged. I don't have much integrity if I can't be challenged. I think being challenged is something that gives us strength. So we should be encouraging that, and maybe not in every space, right? I don't think we should be challenged in every space at all times. We should be able to have places where we feel safe and unthreatened or unchallenged, and then spaces where that's perfectly appropriate. And those should be public spaces for debate, for people being tested, their ideas being tested. And I think we have that with social media. That there's a good intention there, and there's been a lot of benefit, I think. And it's still new, and we can continue to refine it and make it better. I think it needs to be a more distributed, open source kind of thing, and not owned by, I think it should be owned by its stakeholders. Like many things, maybe it could be argued that it's owned by its shareholders. But anyways, I'm kind of off track here. I think that it has always been important for me to have integrity and to stand up and point out wrongdoing. And that's just something that I identify with, is somebody who's willing to do that. And to me, that is a warrior, somebody who is willing to go to battle against narratives and ideas and people that are contrary to what you believe is good. I think there can be rules of engagement, right? No dirty tactics. It has to be a test of integrity. It has to be a test of logic and rationale. And that doesn't just mean scientism. That just doesn't mean empirical codified rules or observations. We need to have room for expansion. Otherwise, it's just a regurgitation of what's already been said. There's infinite nuance to the world and to thought. And there's always new people coming forth. And there's always moments when it might have taken us 50 years to come to certain conclusions. So I think everybody has a nuanced individual assessment of reality, and every person's perspective is valuable and should be tested. That's how we find the value of it. And also that's what encourages us to refine ourselves when we anticipate being tested. And that brings me to something else that I think is really interesting, which is what I talked about in my last video 2 days ago, is this reframing of emergency and crisis. And I'm noticing in myself an evolution of my ability to be in the present and focusing each day on what's going on in the day and what I want to achieve in the day. And even if I do expose myself to stuff that's going on in the world, the emphasis is on the present and what I'm doing with me. Because that's far, far, far more relevant. If shit goes down in the world, which it seems like it is, that could ultimately impact me. For example, there's no way that I would participate in a digital ID. So if it's like people are warning about, then I could end up homeless and with no income and locked out of banking and so on. And that's pretty scary, but instead of being frozen in fear or frightened by it, I'm catalyzed by it. And so I'm thinking, well, what am I going to do today to increase my resilience? And not so much based on those potential circumstances, but really in response to all the circumstances of life, and just recognizing that I sleep better at night when I know that I've accomplished something. And I've kind of realized it almost doesn't matter what I accomplish. If I've just done something, if I've just washed my vehicle, or if I've just emptied the recycling, or, I mean, usually it's something bigger than that, you know, a deep clean of my house, or reorganizing my storage room. And usually in the day there's multiple things. I'm checking off many boxes, and in every day there's things that I like to do every day. So I have my kind of routine, and that makes me feel good. For example, just doing these videos is part of that, and I've felt this beneficial effect from doing it. And there's no agenda of monetization or anything like that. It's it's come from this intuitive place that I won't even get into right now, but this kind of showing up, this self-reflective process, utilizing technology and exposing myself to the world. And to me that is an act of courage. It's also in response to total isolation, and even the feeling of I could die and nobody would have heard my thoughts and opinions about things. And I think there's, I believe I have valuable insights. I feel like I've been really if I say deprived, it sounds like somebody else did it, but I think that, I'll just use it because I don't have a better word right now. I've been deprived of having the opportunity to, say, cultivate the mind of a child that parents do, that many parents take for granted. Or many ways that we can kind of contribute. And that's ultimately what I do have a desire to contribute. And I don't even know how. Because when I think about it, it's such, there's so many things. Because I'm interested in so many things. But for now, this feels like a satisfactory outlet. It's a start, at least, to public speaking kind of thing. And yeah, I think anyone can benefit from that. It's just a good practice of having this awareness that somebody could be watching. And so it brings us kind of into this present moment of self-awareness and a desire for putting our best self forward, though I'm not sure that I'm always doing that. But at this point, it's just about rawness, realness, unpolished authenticity. I'm not trying to sell anything. I just want to be real and show up. And yeah, so that's one of many things that I do in the day. And this is where my emphasis is going, is on my daily routine, my self-care practice, and having some goals, some things that I'm working on that I feel I'm making progress of some kind. But I don't even bother too much about too far in the future. The emphasis is on today and doing enough so that I can sleep well at night. And yeah, it's just really important for me. The backstory is I have been struggling with my health for quite a while now. I mean, it ebbs and flows. Some days it's better than others. Some days it's very unpleasant. And that's when I think like, maybe I'm not going to live long. And you know, that's pretty dark. That feels pretty heavy. But ultimately that does motivate me too. I mean, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it makes me just want to collapse. But even in those darkest moments, those are some of the times when I've got in touch with the unconditional light within me. And I think that's really important. This whole dark night of the soul concept. And relying on ourselves, trusting ourselves, and not freaking out too much, and sometimes making it worse. For example, I did do some investigation about what kind of medical options there are for me. And then I decided, you know what? I think I have a greater capacity to address it than they do. They probably will just throw a bunch of things at me. Antibiotics or this or that, anti-inflammatories, things that ultimately could cause me more harm, because all of those heavy medications have side effects, and they're likely not on the cutting edge of what's going on, whether it be Lyme disease or mold or things like that. That's unlikely that they're going to go there first, which I think is more along the lines of what's going on. Parasites, contaminants, as well as the psychosomatic components. I think it's very multifaceted and complicated, and the person that has the greatest insight about it is me. And really all I want from the medical system is to be able to give me the treatments that I want. And for example, I was looking for IV vitamin C. And I even went to a naturopath, and she said she wasn't able to do that. That required some kind of license, which she no longer had. So something as benign as an IV of vitamin C is more difficult to get than very powerful drugs that can be quite harmful. So the whole system is backwards and messed up, and I have no faith in it. And maybe again, there's a silver lining to that, in that we take things into our own hands. And I think that in my life, difficulty and hardship has taught me a lot. It's been brutal, but it's taught me about my resilience, and it's taught me about who I am at the core. And I think most people don't know these things, and they live in a different world than I do as far as what's real and where their power is. None of my power, I'm not looking to the government, I'm not looking to authorities to sort things out for me. It's on me. And that can be lonely and scary. But by facing that and experiencing that, we do develop a resilience. And this is a fact. This is all of the great stories and historical figures. This is actually where humanity shines, is in hardship. And also for me, I have an emphasis of the planet Saturn in my natal chart, and I believe that I am quite Saturnian. It's part of my makeup, and that means a kind of heavy burden. It doesn't even need to show in the world. It's psychological. It's my reality that my outlook is quite serious and everything has a lot of weight to it. A lot of people seem to be able to shrug off a lot of things or kind of disregard things. For me, everything has meaning and weight. As I mentioned before, even something as little as somebody throwing a piece of trash on the ground upsets me. It makes me angry, it makes me sad. It makes me sad that people have so little disregard. I mean, if that's how mindless they are, how inconsiderate, what does the rest of their life look like? So I am very mindful, I'm very intentional, and I'm very considerate of the impact of things. And again, being considerate, in my opinion, does not mean being nice. There's the realization, the observation that what we call niceness is often inauthenticity, which serves no one. It's a manipulation tactic. It's a way of having somebody approve of you. Why? So that you can get something from them. Because if it's a real, true relationship based on love, there's no need to manipulate somebody into believing that you are better than you are. You trust that your authenticity, your real feelings and thoughts are acceptable within that relationship. That person will suspend judgment of what might come out of your mouth long enough so that you can explain yourself in enough depth that they'll ask questions like, what do you mean by that? Right? And that they're willing to extend that kind of space of openness to truly understand you. So it's not just about surface appearance or quick remarks or any of that. That's not a quick to judge. So this niceness is unnecessary. It's a fraudulence, and it suggests there's a lack of connection, a lack of love, and a lack of truth in relationship. I'd much rather somebody tell me like it is. Tell me the truth, even if it's a painful truth. And there's people in my life that I would really like to share my painful truth with. For example, my parents. Because for so many years I've just kept my observations and my thoughts to myself. Not all of them, but a good portion of them. Because I was avoidant of conflict, I was afraid of them. And yeah, there was manipulation there because I didn't trust them. There wasn't that rapport and love. And but I feel now as a 50-year-old man whose parents, I don't know how much longer they'll be alive. I feel some need. I'm on the fence about it because part of me thinks they're not going to be able to receive it. Ultimately, the relationship is not there, and so there's doubt about the ability to receive it. So what is the motivation? What is the reason for speaking one's truth to somebody that you don't have a relationship with? And so that's the conundrum that I'm in right now. And essentially thinking, well, who is it for? Because if it's just for me, I can just vent it through video or journal or whatever. But part of me thinks that it is for them too. For them to give them the benefit of the doubt to some degree that perhaps it might help them somehow. Because I think that the truth is healing. The truth is helpful. It doesn't feel like that necessarily. But I think that is always the case. And it's very important for me to be truthful. Because it's what gives me a sense of integrity in myself. And I've been around liars. And liars are often self-hating people. They're insecure about life in general. That's opposite of what I want to be. I want to be strong and confident and capable and clear and have integrity, have uprightness, be able to hold my head high. And it's not just for me, because I think at that point, when you feel that true strength, not strength that's based on the ego or superficial appearances or anything like that, when you feel true strength, it's because you're filled with the light of consciousness. You're filled with divinity. And it doesn't want to stop. It wants to extend beyond you. And I've felt that before. I've felt it many times. I can get in touch with that. It's a little bit shaky. It's there and then it's not, and then it's there and it's not. And I have grown more skillful in understanding how that works. I still am very much a fallible human and fall off that horse and that discipline, but I think this is my path, is in understanding how to channel this light and how to be of service to this light. And this light wants to extend itself into the whole world and uplift other people and make the world a better place. And it feels really good. It is good. It is the epitome of goodness. And it puts the ego in its place, which is merely a servant, a tool, an interface with spirit, soul, and the world of time and space. It's just a point of interface. It's just like the rubber tires on the car meeting the road. The car, doesn't matter how nice of a car you got, if you don't have tires, it doesn't do anything. It doesn't serve its purpose. So it's really about the interface with the world that is the link in the chain that's important. And so that the ego gets all of this emphasis put on it. But we are not our ego. We are not our body. We are not our name. We are not the story that the ego's collected. That will all die. And the soul will retain the important lessons. And I think the important lesson for me for multiple lifetimes, I think, is developing this integrity and this truthfulness, this willingness to be unpopular, to go through the gauntlet of criticism and dislike, which ironically comes from the very people often that try and micromanage and say, be nice. Because they're inauthentic and they feel threatened by people who are authentic, because that the light that they exude shows them how short they are falling from what is their potential to be truthful and have integrity and be clear and be honest. But this world is really dominated by evil. And by evil, I mean the lack of authenticity, the lack of truthfulness and transparency and uprightness and morality. The people at the top are the worst kind of people, because that's who wants to get to the top. As far as worldly ambitions go, and especially the culture surrounding it, it's most appealing to the narcissists, which are the people that are not in touch with divinity and their soul, and they emphasize the ego. They put all of their energy and attention on the ego, but the ego is fundamentally insecure because its identity is based on its separateness. So it is, by its nature, fearful and insecure. And so it's constantly efforting. And that is rewarded in this world. The human culture that has grown and been established and perpetuated. It's not the natural world, but it's the human, who knows, maybe it's not even human, but it's the artificial construct that we live in. Call it the Matrix. I think we're wrestling to understand ourselves. What is human? Because we're kind of this, we're a mixture of nature and artifice. We have this intellect that compartmentalizes us, tells us we're separate. And this can be understood by the story of Adam and Eve, the loss of Eden and innocence. And maybe that was necessary. And maybe everything that's going on is necessary, and the tribulation of it all is necessary, so that we continue to mature and come back full circle, but with full awareness of the interplay and what it means to be an enlightened human, a creature in time and space that is self-aware that divinity, source, spirit is powering the whole thing. So if we lose touch with that power, then there's this hardening that occurs. this entrenchment and a kind of cruelty and selfishness in the worst sense that occurs. And this is narcissism, where that ego identity becomes predatory and vampiric because it's lost its connection with divinity. Then it needs to consume the energy of others. It needs to pull the attention and approval from others. That needs to receive that light from others. And that's why we see those kind of people that are hungry for other people's attention, constantly driven to do that in these places of power, such as politics and celebrity. Anybody that really wants fame and does stupid, ridiculous things for fame, because they are narcissists and they've lost touch with God. They've lost touch with divinity that doesn't need approval. It just knows itself. It just is itself. And there's very little efforting in that. In fact, for me, when I feel that the strongest, I feel like doing almost nothing. Well, there's this dynamic sensation of being able to just peacefully sit quietly, relaxed, in a very wonderful, blissful state. And then the next moment be inspired and jump up and make a cake, or clean the house, or go for a walk, or do some art. So it's a very dynamic way of being where there's an ability to rest and be centered and be recharged and renewed in that. And then to take that energy and enthusiasm, excitement and peacefulness and bring it into the world and create. So be inspired, inspirited. And that is truly the best way to be. That is the good way to be. And it's not, that state of happiness is not contingent on other people's approval. And that feeling is one of resourcefulness, of having access to well-being inside. You don't need a Porsche. You don't need a bunch of money. You don't need a beautiful wife with big boobs. You don't need any of those things, and you're not willing to sacrifice your values and your morality for them. It doesn't mean that you don't enjoy what comes your way or any of the things of the world. You can enjoy all of the things of the world, but you're not willing to sell yourself out. You're not willing to sacrifice things that are of more importance, which is often your peace of mind, your tranquility, and your ability to access the divine. And if one's life gets too cluttered and too busy and too demanding, there's less and less time for tranquility and stillness and introspection. To me, this is something that I wouldn't trade anything for. I want more of it. I want to live in a cabin in the woods. I want simplicity. I want to just grow my food in my own garden. I would give up all of modern conveniences to have a piece of property that I could just be left alone. And I think there's more and more people that are like that. I know a number of people that have said the very same thing. And yeah, I think in many ways we're coming full circle. We're turning, at least an awareness, a wisening, out of this contrast, out of this extreme discomfort, disease, crime, corruption, environmental degradation, and evil that seems to be on the brink of taking over the entire world and destroying everything good and enslaving all of humanity. Yet, perhaps the anticipation of that is causing a quickening, as it is doing in me, as it has done in me for a while. I've realized, I've noticed that when I'm just responding out of fear, that I don't make good choices. Like when I spend $10,000 on my credit card to buy survival gear that I still have and haven't used. The motivation, I don't think it's not out of fear anymore. For me, it's about an overall resilience and strength. And so that's what I focus on, is how can I be resilient and strong, which is what I identify with. I think this is who I am. I'm getting in touch with who I am, and not what society made of me, not what my parents made of me. I'm coming to my true, authentic self. Or closer, at least. And that feels good. This willingness to just face the moment. And trust that I can. And so each day is facing the day. And even just incremental progress. Making these videos, and there's been some, yesterday I missed it. Why? I didn't feel up to it. And I don't like that, because that felt, as the day crept on, I felt a defeat about that. So that those negative thoughts and all that won over yesterday. And it's only through that contrast that I really know this dynamic. But yeah, maybe nobody watches this video, or 3 people, but it doesn't matter. Because for me, it's showing up to what I committed myself to do. I'm not trying to explain how the universe works. I'm just showing up and practicing showing up. And it feels good. It's helping me. It feels like an accomplishment. And I think this is the foundation of everything. Everything that we want. It's built incrementally. And it's built out of our vulnerability and our breakdowns and our hardship and our appropriate response to fear, which is not collapse, but is in facing it authentically. Saying, I'm terrified right now, I'm fearful right now that this might happen. But I think if we stay with that, as I've experienced in writing in a journal and not censoring, but having the practice of, I'm just going to write 3 pages and whatever, it doesn't matter what the content is. I'm just going to write 3 pages of stream of consciousness. And the first bit is gobbledygook. It's, I hate this, I don't want to do this, this is dumb. And then, once the pipes are cleaned out, amazing stuff comes out. And by the time I finish those 3 pages, I'm stoked. I'm inspired. And I know this for a fact. I know this is how it works. This is facing the dragon of self-doubt. And the more we do it, I think the easier it becomes. When we notice that there's a benefit to it, it creates a positive feedback loop. And we build a greater capacity to do so. And then we can take on the bigger things. For me, that's been working on my vehicle, even though I have no experience and no knowledge about it. It's very intimidating and can be very frustrating too. I don't have a shop. I have to work out on my vehicle out in the road, and I don't have all the tools, and I have very little experience with it. So it's quite frustrating, but I just start small and build on my successes. And I build up my self-confidence, and I have been, and I've been making progress. And it feels really good. And again, with other things, there's been many things that I've tackled. I think one of the safest and easiest places to do this with is art, right? We want to try out something new, and my approach to art is always very experimental and playful. And I think that should be the foundation of art too. It's great, the people that get to this place where they can look at a picture of a bird and replicate it, or they can create a beautiful scene. Or have developed a really refined craftsmanship. That's great, it's beautiful, it's wonderful. But I think that along the way, I'm sure they did a lot of experimentation, and they built up this confidence. And I think the best way to do that is just suspending judgment and being willing to make mistakes and try out things. And we need this, I think we need this attitude with life too. Especially as adults, we can get kind of ossified in like our ego not wanting to make mistakes. And we've got to uphold this perfect, nice persona. I think I'm grateful that I'm an Aries and have strong Aries influence, because Aries are probably the least worried about looking foolish or childlike. It's part of our makeup is to try things, to be the first, to pioneer, to just be impulsive and inspired. It's probably, the sun is exalted in Aries. It is the most inspired sign. And it probably makes the most mistakes too. Fucks up the most. Just like a toddler, baby, just like a toddler. Falls down a lot, makes a lot of mistakes, but it has a resilience that it doesn't stop and doesn't hate itself, left to its own devices for mistakes. It doesn't even think of it that way. It's just an adventure. And so that's the approach that I'm taking with my life each day, is try not to be too serious about it, but still be focused. Find that balance of structure and spontaneity, of discernment, but also openness that I don't necessarily know anything. I don't know if I might get all worked up about something and it never come to pass. So I think this is a lifelong lesson, but that if we're doing the work, it should get easier. And I think it is for me, despite conditions, seeming conditions, the conditions I experience getting harder, my attitude is getting better. And my outlook is getting better, more resilient. Yeah, it's kind of a radical authenticity, radical presence, unconditionality. And that is my definition of love.